Bonnie McDonald-Dixon, and I'm here today with Linda Purcell with Veggie Outlaws. So Linda, tell me a little bit about how you got into working with veggies and Veggie Outlaws.
Oh, hi, Bonnie. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Well, I guess about 10 or 12 years ago, my husband and I decided that we would eat more of a plant-based diet. We've always been on the lookout for healthy ways of eating and going through various different phases of having healthy foods. But so 10 years ago, we decided to eat more plant-based, a more plant-based diet. And so, of course, I had to change my whole style of cooking and looking for healthy recipes that taste good. And I've never been a fan of sort of processed vegan foods like the vegan cheese or the vegan mayonnaise, vegan yogurt and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to create recipes that you don't need those things in it, but that taste good. And my experience is a lot of times vegan recipes are terrible. Like, they can taste awful. I mean, perhaps this was more of a problem back 10, 12 years ago than it is today. There are a lot more vegan options available. But so just trying to take maybe some standard recipes, some traditional recipes that I've had, like my mom's mom had, and taking those recipes and altering them, changing them, and making them plant-based but delicious.
And making them your own.
And making them my own.
Well, I understand you have several children, boys?
Yes.
How many boys do you have?
I have 3 boys.
And so it had to pass their taste bud test as well.
Yes, it did. And in fact, my boys they don't really follow the plant-based diet. And so for one of my sons, I was making a vegan mac and cheese. And I'm like, oh, you come and try my vegan mac and cheese. And he goes, Mom, that doesn't sound very good. I'm like, no, try it. So he did. And after he ate it, he went, wow, this is amazing. And it's funny because for that particular recipe, that wasn't my first go at it. I experimented with my vegan mac and cheese and for 5 different times, and I finally came up with a winner.
Oh, I look forward to doing that, or coming over and tasting that recipe for sure. So today, what recipe are you going to show us so that people have something fun and fast to put together for a party or maybe a family get-together? What can you share with us today?
Well, today I wanted to share with you my recipe called Spicy Chili Unfries.
Oh, yum!
And they're unfries because I cook them in the oven, and the spices that you put on them, you can make them as spicy or as unspicy as you want. And I want to serve with it my version of chipotle aioli.
Oh, yum!
And that, of course, is a plant-based dip, and it's quite yummy.
So tell me some of the ingredients we're going to be using here today. I see potatoes. What kind of potatoes do you use, Linda?
Well, for this recipe, I like to use the russet potatoes, and I find using the big ones is the best because you get the best size fries. Because having them nice and long and thin, makes them quite tasty.
Oh, good to know. And then I see you have some, it looks like cashews here. Is that part of the recipe as well?
Yes, it is. In order to make the chipotle aioli, it's cashew based. So I take the raw cashews and I soak them. You need to soak them for at least 4 hours, but I do find I need to rinse them several times. Yes, I soak the cashews for 4 hours, but I find it's quite important to rinse them several times. And I don't know, like, you would think that the cashews are ready to go, but I just find when I soak them, the water becomes quite black, and I don't know how clean they are. So I always rinse them several times. And then...
With cool water or warm water?
I kind of use lukewarm water.
Okay, all right. Now it also looks like you have some delicious looking roasted garlic here.
Yes, I include the roasted garlic in the aioli recipe.
Oh, yum, yum. And then you've got some interesting spices here. You've got, oh, my favorite spike, and some smoked paprika, and you also have some, chipotle chili pepper ground up. And then you have chipotle pimentos, yum. And you have your sea salt and you have your olive oil. So show us what you do first, Linda. Where does this recipe start?
Well,
Do you make your aioli first or do you cut your potatoes and prepare them first?
no, I usually cut the potatoes and prepare them and cook them, and then while they're cooking, then I prepare the
Okay.
aioli.
Yeah, so let's start the recipe here.
You should peel it first.
So Linda, when you grew up, did you grow up cooking?
Well, my mom, she used to cook, and in fact, that's one of my fondest memories when I was a child is baking with my mom. We would make pies together.
Oh, yum.
Yes, and then I guess one of the best parts of making pies is with the leftover pastry to create little cinnamon wheels.
Oh.
So and so as part of my cookbook, I've come up with a vegan recipe, a vegan version of that.
Oh.
And it's really yummy. One thing though I found with the pastry, my mom, she used to make it, I guess, with Crisco oil or whatever. And I have tried making it with vegan margarine, but I really am trying to stay away from those kinds of products as much as possible. So I've come up with a pastry version where you cook it using olive oil or grapeseed oil.
Oh.
But the difference with that is you don't, like typically with pastry, you put it in the oven, not the oven, you put it in the fridge so it can sit. But with your olive oil pastry, you don't do that. You cook it up right away.
Oh, I look forward to that recipe in future. So, and also in thinking about this, your Veggie Outlaws, how did you come up with that cute name?
Well, originally the recipe book was called No Bowl, Vegetarian Cooking, because, the same idea of this is, straightforward kind of stuff. But then we found out that there was already a No Bowl veggie dog that was on the market, and we thought, well, we can't really go in and use that because it's kind of already in the marketplace. So then I was looking around trying to come up with a different recipe, a different name for the book, and then I was thinking that what am I trying to do here? What kind of cooking are we trying to do here? We want something that's different, something that sort of is breaking out away from the standard. And so then we kind of thought, kind of like an Outlaws, we're kind of like Veggie Outlaws, and because we want to break away from sort of the traditional standard cooking. And so that's how we came up with the name Veggie Outlaws.
That one's really cute. I see you've gotten a couple little things. We have what is this? A carrot, a potato. Is that a strawberry?
Yes.
And then a bean?
No, cashew.
Oh, a cashew. How cute.
Yeah, so it's cashew Sue, strawberry Sal, potato Pat, and carrot Rick.
How cute. How fun. So will you have recipes in your book that include all of those different ingredients, of course?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. How many recipes will be in your upcoming book?
Well, I've actually have created about 300 recipes, but I won't be including all 300 in the book because not all of them, are maybe as hugely successful as I would have liked, but I'm thinking I would like to have maybe about 150 recipes, and I'd like to have it covering a number of different areas, so that it has breakfasts, it has, breads, easy, not like hard baking breads, but sort of fast, quick breads, like quick breads and muffins, light meals, mains, and I even have a holiday meal.
Oh, nice.
And sides, appetizers, desserts, drinks.
Even though you're cooking with vegan, now there's also trends for gluten-free as well. And do you include some gluten-free recipes in there? Or do you have any other specialty recipes that will be in the cookbook?
Well, I do definitely have some gluten-free recipes. I did try taking some recipes and adjusting them for gluten-free flour, but I found that you really need to create the recipe for a gluten-free recipe needs to be created on its own, because it doesn't have that gluten, it doesn't cook the same way. And so for an example of that is I came up with a almond cookie, but it's made with almond meal.
Yes.
And it's really good. Although so within my cookbook I have each specific recipe states whether it's nut-free, gluten-free, soy-free, oil-free, and so that not all the recipes, obviously fit one category, but then you have a way of being able to isolate if you're looking for a specific kind of recipe.
I see. You were sharing with me a little bit earlier, Linda, that you and your family tend to avoid soy products, or maybe is it soybeans or more probably the processed soy?
Yeah, I try to stay away from the processed soy products. I mean, not always, but I just find that if we can avoid them, I prefer to do that.
Does that include tofu?
Well, we do have it on occasion, yes, but I do try to avoid it as much as possible in my cooking.
And in your Veggie Outlaw cooking, how are you getting your protein? We often talk about, everyone's all focused on protein. So where do you kind of gauge that when you're cooking for a meal for the family?
I always take into consideration where's my protein coming from. And so we use a lot of beans, lentils, beans, and like quinoa is a really good source of protein. But there's a lot of vegetables that are high in protein. So if you can combine a number of them together as well, you're getting your protein. But I always do try to take that into consideration. And so throwing in lentils, chickpeas.
And the difference, I noticed that people only think there's one variety of anything, white rice or brown rice, but within the rices alone, there's many different varieties, probably well over 100. And do you experiment with the different grains as well in the Veggie Outlaws, or are we doing mainly vegetable recipes in your upcoming book?
No, I have a number of grains that I use. Like, for example, I have a mushroom and barley soup recipe, and I use different kinds of rice. I try to use the brown rice as much as possible, just because, we are trying to I really do try to promote healthy foods that are, good for your body. And I use quinoa. So there are a number of different grains that we use. For a number of different recipes.
Yeah. So in all these recipes, how did you keep track of all your recipes and all the different reiterations of the different ones? Did you have a notebook, or did you use your computer? How did you do this research, R&D?
Well, for my research, I use the computer, and I have for many years, and have a program on my computer where I keep all my different recipes. So every time whenever I make my recipe and I make any changes, I always note the changes. And so from there, it flowed from there, and using my computer and using Microsoft Word to sort of come up with a standard style for my recipe book. And then every time I'm using, and I like to try my recipes, because I want to make sure that it's going to turn out every time. So I don't just make it one time, I make it numerous times. And every time I make a recipe, I follow my recipe book, I edit it, I make any adjustments, improvements, if there's a way to make it better, and I document it all.
So you're putting your cut potatoes in the bowl, and then what's next, Linda? What do you do after that?
The next step is to add boiling water and just let them sit for 10 minutes. And this is really an important key for this recipe, because what it does, it creates a fried potato, a French fried potato that's a little bit crispy on the outside, but it's so creamy inside.
Oh, wow, I've never heard of that before.
Yes,
I would have thought it would be cold water, but it's hot boiling water.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and then another important part of that is once you let them soak for 10 minutes is to dry them off. You need to dry them off as much as possible, and then add your spices and bake them.
So they're nice big pieces, so make a nice big fry in there. But I guess as they're baking, they'll shrink down a little bit.
Yeah, they all seem to shrink down a little bit.
So Linda, did you choose these particular spices? Like I love this. I've always loved spike. But I noticed, how did you choose the different spices for this recipe?
Well, oh, here, let me just pour the water. I've always, as I said, like always experimenting with different things. And I thought, I guess I also like to play in my recipe book, play with the names of my different recipes. And I guess people think chili fries or fries served with chili, maybe. But I thought, and fries are usually, fried in oil or deep fried. And I thought, I want to do something different. So I thought I'll, bake them in the oven. But I still want them spicy, So I tried a number of different spices that I could, put on them. And then I found that combination was the best. And I really like to use spike seasoning because it adds some salt, but it also adds a really nice flavor.
Yes.
And I also like I also wanted to use the smoked paprika just to give it a little bit of a smoke flavor because it is being baked opposed to being fried. So I don't know, just to give it a little bit of texture, yeah.
A little kick.
And then the chipotle chili is to give it that kick.
And this will be in the aioli.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I remember the very first time I ate chipotle chilies, I was in Mexico. I'd never tasted that flavor before. It was so unique and such a kick.
Yes.
Yeah. And I see you're using sea salt.
Yes, I always like to use sea salt.
Is that a coarse or a fine grind that you're using there?
This is the fine grind.
The fine grind.
I do find that for certain recipes it is nice to use the coarse grind, but for this kind of cooking I find the fine grind is much better than the coarse grind.
And you're going to be putting the salt right in the potatoes now?
Well, just as it's sitting here, like to sprinkle it on top because I don't want them to go brown.
Oh, okay, that's a tip, huh? It'll keep them from turning brown.
Yeah, just add some and let it sit for 10 minutes. So I'll set the timer.
And I notice you're using olive oil. And do you like olive oil to bake with?
Well, the thing is, I think maybe it might be I made this recipe today with olive oil, and I do think that it is a good option because olive oil has a nice flavor. But I do think maybe I sometimes get a little bit concerned about the smoke rate because I'm cooking it at a high heat. I'm cooking it at 450, so that's quite a high heat. So I'm thinking, somebody who's really concerned about that, they might want to consider using grapeseed oil.
Yeah, it has a higher smoke point.
A higher smoke point, yes.
It'd be a more neutral flavor.
Yes. Yes.
And the higher smoke point, yeah. And so what we've got to do now is you're going to be making your aioli.
Yes. So I can do that now. And I guess what I can do is maybe mix everything together and then process it.
Okay, let's see here. Do you ever avoid any particular ingredients when you're cooking? Like mayonnaise, you were talking about not a processed food. So this is like a mayonnaise or like a dip. And so you wouldn't buy a commercial one, you're making it for the specific recipe.
Yes, because for myself, I find that the vegan mayonnaise doesn't taste very good, and I don't really, and it's quite processed, so I prefer to avoid it. But I know when I have my fries, I love to dip them in a chipotle aioli. So I thought well, maybe I can come up with something. Maybe I can create a recipe, that has that really tasty chipotle flavor, and you can dip the fry in, but you're avoiding consuming that processed mayonnaise. And so cashews are such a beautiful, beautiful nut. And I use them a lot, for this type of thing. Like I use them in my mac and cheese and various other recipes, because they have such a subtle flavor that you can utilize them in this, and the flavor isn't overpowering, and then it can blend really, really well with the other flavors, and it gives it a really nice creamy texture.
So when you grind them up or you use the processor, then it will make a smooth a base that you can flavor it with, is what you're saying. Yes. Oh, I look forward. So what first do you do here?
I mean, my computer. Yeah, my recipe computer. Okay, so.
You got your different versions.
Yes. Yeah, because as I said, I've experimented with this, 6 different times, and my son even jumped on the bandwagon when I was doing it, and he made his version as well. So we had really a lot of fun cooking together.
So I'll just read off some of these ingredients. 1/2 cup of cashews, 2 tablespoons of milk. Now, is that regular milk or is this?
No, it's a milk that I create.
That's a milk. Okay, we'll have to talk about that. And 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 chipotle pepper from a canned and adobe sauce without seeds. Those are very flavorful peppers for sure.
Yes, and but if you don't, like my son, for example, he doesn't care for the adobe sauce flavor. He finds it too smoky. So he prefers just the plain chipotle pepper.
Oh.
So, I mean, I have 2 versions here that...
I see. So that gives someone what they like, the heavier, smokier flavor or a lighter, smokier flavor. So if you use the powder, then that gives a lighter, smokier flavor.
Well, no, I have the canned one.
I see.
This one is in the adobe, and so maybe today we should try the one without it.
Sure, that looks fabulous. And then 3 tablespoons of lime juice. Should that be fresh lime juice?
Yes.
The fresh lime juice makes the difference. And 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic, and 3 roasted garlic cloves. Now, did you make those garlic cloves yourself?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I see. So tell us a tip on making roasted garlic cloves.
Oh, well, to make roasted garlic cloves, I preheat the oven to 350, and then I, clean the garlic, and I cut off of the very tips of them, and then I place them with the tip side up, but with the tip side, cut a bit, and I put in a teaspoon of olive oil, and then I put 1/4 cup of vegetable broth in the bottom.
Okay.
And then I usually like to put some kind of a herb on top. So in this case, I put I think oregano.
Oh, nice.
So I usually like to put a little herb on top, and then I bake it in the oven, and I cover it lightly with foil because I don't want it to get steamed, but I do find it cooks better if it's got a little bit of a covering on it.
Here we go. So do you bake several at once so that you have some in the fridge to use for other recipes as well? Do they keep well once you've roasted them?
Well, they do keep in the fridge for about a week, but I usually just cook them up as I need them, just because they're so easy. Like, it's so easy to cook them, it doesn't take much time at all.
So you've got your cashews here, and so this looks like a double recipe.
It is, yeah.
And then, so tell me about this milk that you make.
Oh, yeah. But I came up with my milk concoction that I use. So I use like 3/4 of a cup of oat milk, 1/4 of a cup of cashew milk, and 2 tablespoons of coconut milk.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, and I mix it all up together, and it's really quite tasty.
And so do you keep these different milks in the fridge and then mix it all together as you need it?
I typically do that. Like, sometimes I'll make up some ahead of time because I like it in my coffee. But I just make it up as I go, typically. So I made some up today.
Wonderful. Have you ever made oat milk or any of the nut milks yourself?
No, I haven't, but it's something that is on my list that I would like to try.
I will be able to help you with that.
You've
Yes,
done that?
I used to teach a class years ago. Not milk, nut milks. There was a book, and it's very fun and easy. So that'll be fun for you to try it in the future as well.
Yes, I would love that.
When your book comes out,
Yes.
will you be doing some of your recipes on and posting them on a website so that people can
Yes.
see more of your cooking here?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
And they'll be able to buy your book on Amazon, I take it?
Yes.
Yes. And then will you have a version for just online as well? An online
Yes,
book?
I definitely want to have an online version of my cookbook, and I also want to create. My goal maybe for next year is to create a mobile app.
Oh, fabulous.
So that you can, have the recipes and then you can sort by different things you're looking for. Like for example, soy-free or nut-free or, that kind of thing. And the other thing that I really focus on in my recipes is the ingredients. The nutrients. So if something's high in vitamin C or something's high in vitamin A, they're all documented. And so I think that having a mobile app would be awesome because then, if you're feeling like you need more vitamin C because maybe you're fighting a cold or you're not feeling that well, you can look and see what are recipes that are high in this.
That sounds like a wonderful app that will be on its way.
Yes.
Yeah. And will you have any a cooking site, like a group that you'll be putting together, a Facebook type of group, or do you have any other aspirations for your book or books forthcoming?
Well, I would like to continue to, because I have so many recipes, I would definitely like to have another version of the book.
So Veggie Outlaws will ride again?
Yes, absolutely. And I would also like to get involved in having some cooking workshops. I was thinking, because I have this wonderful vegan Christmas cake or fruit cake, and it has no bad things in it at all. It has no added oil, and it's absolutely delicious. And I think it would be really, really great to give a workshop in November of, maybe a mother and daughter could come together to the workshop and they could make a Christmas cake together.
I have tasted that cake and it is delicious. It was absolutely delicious. I was lucky enough to get a taste of that delicious cake.
Okay, so now this has been soaking for 10 minutes. So I'm going to drain off this water. And then I will need to dry them off.
So by getting the moisture off, it will make a crisper unfry.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's really an important step, is to remove the extra moisture.
And then because the potatoes have some starch in there, it's probably taken off some of the starch as well by soaking them in the warm water or the hot water.
Oh yes, that's for sure.
Well, we all love our fries, that's for sure.
Yes.
And if you have leftover fries, do they keep well, and what would you do with leftover fries, if there's any at all?
Well, usually if there are any leftovers, which often there isn't, then I will just get some more. Then I will reheat them up in the oven.
Okay.
To re-crisp them up.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend putting them in the microwave because then they're just going to be soggy and not taste very good.
But they re-crisp up nicely, it sounds like.
Yes, they do. They do re-crisp up nicely. So then once I've kind of dried them off, then I put them back in the dish, dry the dish off.
Did your mother ever make you French fries when you were a young girl?
I don't recall my mom making French fries. I don't think so. I don't think she really cooked like anything deep fried things, and maybe we had those frozen fries that you'd heat up in the oven. I don't know.
That's what I grew up with as well. Now my husband, he grew up with his mother would make them French fries, so so I look forward for him to try these Unfries as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too.
So there's the olive oil or grapeseed oil.
So 2 tablespoons.
Just a light drizzle there.
And 1/4 teaspoon of spike.
Spike was always one of my very favorite spices. Gaylord Hauser spike.
Yes.
Vegetables, a little salt, quite a flavor pop.
And the smoked paprika.
I also noticed that you put, you could use Old Bay seasoning on here too.
Yes.
If that's what you have.
That's right. Because I think in Old Bay seasoning has a lot of the similar flavors to spike, but I don't believe it has the salt though. So if you're going to use that, you might want to just add some additional salt. And then for the chipotle pepper, you could, depending how spicy you want it, you could put it from a 1/4 teaspoon to a teaspoon, but I think we'll try to go with the full teaspoon here. And I just sprinkle it on, and then once that's done, then using my tongs, just mix them all together and try to get all the fries covered in oil and with seasoning for the best flavor.
Looks yummy, and it's not even cooked yet.
I know I have heard some people like to do this with their fingers, but I think it works fine with tongs.
How many potatoes do you usually use per person? Use 1 potato per person if you're cooking a meal? I guess it depends if it was of the meal or a side. But,
Right, yes. Yeah, exactly. It does depend, and it also depends on the size of the potato, but I guess probably a good standard would be, 1 medium potato per person. But this one is, I made this with two large potatoes, and I guess as a side, I think it could serve 4 people, but maybe not if they're really hungry teenagers.
So if you were having a party, you could actually prepare these ahead of time and then reheat them for the party so that it's, so you'd have enough for our big party.
Yes.
So that's nice to know about this recipe.
Yes, that's true. That's a really good idea. I like to put a little bit of oil just in the bottom of the pan. There's not a lot of oil. Not too much, but spread it around. I often like to use the sprayer to do this. But I think mine's empty right now. And then just spread them out. It's really important to spread them out in a single layer so they cook the best. It smells good.
It does. Have you ever tried it on top of parchment paper? Just curious.
No, I haven't. But I have used parchment paper, for definitely when I'm making cookies. I use parchment paper, and for the the fruit cake, I use parchment paper. I know with the parchment paper for sure it does simplify the cleanup as well. But this one's not such a bad cleanup. And I also find they don't, you know, if you put a little bit of oil on the bottom, they don't stick.
Doesn't stick. So this looks like your broiler tray, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But you could also use a big cookie sheet.
You could use a big cookie sheet or a big, you know, roasting dish if you, especially if you're making, you know, a bigger amount.
But it's nice for them to have their space a little bit, so they don't steam on each other.
Right. Yes. Okay, so we'll put this in, and then in about 15 minutes we'll give them a little turn. They don't take long to cook because they've already been in the boiling water.
And that temperature is 455?
Well, my oven's 5 minutes cool, so it's 450.
450 for 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Will you be turning them at all during that time?
No, I'll wait for the 15 minutes, and then I'll give them a turn then, and then cook them for about another 10 minutes.
Okay, so about 25 minutes total.
Yeah.
So here are these lovely fries that have been baked, and so let's try here. Oh, this looks so yummy. Okay, what fun. This is pure, delicious, fun food with Linda Purcell, Veggie Outlaws. Enjoy.